Everybody, it's Leroy from Leroy Gaming, and today I'm bringing you my 10 things I wish I knew sooner before starting to play Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. And this is going to cover topics all the way from stuff early to the game all the way to some interesting secrets that I wish I'd known about right away once I hit level 40 and finish the main game content. Now we're going to go ahead and jump in with an important tip to know in order to avoid some frustrations in the Overworld map that I'm in right now. So the reality is, as you go through the story, you're going to run into a lot of blocks. And they're going to be blocks like this that are going to be limited to where you can go based on story progression, either through main story progression or side quests. So in this case, early on, you're going to run into this door. You're going to wish you had access to that key there, but you're not going to get to that till quite a bit later in the story. That's one example of something, no matter what you do right now, in the first couple hours, you're not going to get access to it. Another example is going to be running into these bottle caps from the wrong side. So these bottle caps, as you see here, are going to act as kind of bridges to give you shortcuts later on in the game. When you run into this one from this side earlier on, you're not going to get access to anything, unfortunately, as you'll see Tina talk about. But if you turn around, if you come from this other side, you'll be able to knock it down and come across later. So those are two options right off the bat. And let me show you one other option you're going to find just a little bit after this. And here's one more example. And now where we are is quite literally across a little bridge that's overlooking ahead here, past here, is right where you began. So not too long into the game, you're going to be able to come across here and you're going to run into this area where you say, oh, wow, look over there. There's a dice up there. I want to get that, but you know what? You're going to have access to this lock here. You are not going to get that for quite a bit of time. So again, even though this is at the very beginning of the game here, you're going to have to backtrack to this once you unlock this feature story-wise, probably halfway to 2/3 of the way through the main story. Now, the next thing I wish I had known was about quest scaling. Now, unfortunately, I am ridden with a bug right now that has made all my quest log disappear. But if you can just magically imagine here, you're going to have quests that are going to be story quests and then side quests. The distinction is that the story quests have predetermined levels, and you're going to see what levels they are. However, all side quests you pick up will scale to your current level. This is important for two reasons, because number one, sometimes if you just follow the main story, you will basically get behind the levels of the content. And if you get to a point where you're struggling to beat the main story, you can go back, pick up any of the side quests, or even quests that you have already picked up. They will automatically scale to your level. So even if you got it at the beginning of the game and it was like a level 4 quest right off the bat, and you're to level 25, it will now scale to level 25. Also, the rewards will scale. So if the quest rewards like a blue unique kind of type of weapon, if you beat it at level 4, it'll be a level 4 gun. If you beat it at level 30 or 40, it'll be level 30 or 40. So it's another strategy. If you want a very specific reward, you can wait till the end game and then do it to get a max level version of that gun. So remember that main story quests don't scale, side quests do. All right, fact number 3 that I wish I had known earlier is the fact that the Overflow machine is similar to your bank account-wide. So for those of you that don't know, early in the game, you're going to unlock this Overflow machine. And so anytime loot doesn't get picked up, it's going to get sent to this box. And you're going to have a certain amount of loot, and it will always keep the highest quality loot for you. So let's say if initially you have a limit of 10 pieces of loot, and they're all green that you haven't picked up, they'll all be green. But then if the 11th piece of loot is blue, it's going to dump out the old, or basically delete the oldest green item and now put in a blue item. If all of a sudden you get a legendary item, that's going to take priority. That's going to go in there as well. So this is something you can access in the town. Also, what's important is that you can basically leave this stuff on a high level character, then you can log on a lower level character to easily take it out and sell it to a vendor to make a bunch of gold. So outside of sticking it into your bank where you may not necessarily want to stick kind of junk in, you can use this system of quickly and easily transferring items that maybe aren't really necessarily great, but you want to sell them for good money, and log on to alt characters to access this, sell, and go back to your main, farm a little bit, and then come on periodically so you can transfer that money. So that is one easy way to transfer gold. All right, next thing I wish I'd known was the limitations of the enchanting system. So late in the game, you're going to get access to the enchanting system, and you're going to basically be able to modify weapons and certain pieces of gear with these legendary enchants. Now, there are two limitations here. Number one is the amount of times that you can re-roll an enchant. So the first time you re-roll an enchant is going to cost 2, and it's going to double all the way up to over 4,000. The problem is the most gems you can ever have is 4,000. So the last time you can ever re-roll is the one that has a little bit over 2,000 re-rolls. So do keep that in mind when you're rolling a piece of loot and you're deciding whether you want to kind of keep pushing your luck or not. You have a finite amount of chances. Now, you always have the option to keep your re-roll or your previous enchant, but make sure that you at least lock in one enchant that you're pretty happy with, and then you can push your luck. But note that once you hit that limit, you're no longer going to be able to reroll that loot. The other thing to keep in mind is when you look at your loots and your actual enchants, you cannot have any duplicate enchants. They have to be unique. So for example, if on this armor here I have enchant, on action skill start, increase status effect chance and damage by 20% for 10 seconds. If I had the same exact enchant, let's say on my spell, those would not stack. They have to be different in some way. So they can be both on action start, they can be both on spell cast, etc. But the wording has to be different in some way. That is, however, the only limitation. As long as you have a different one in each slot, you're fine. Also, when it comes to guns, only the gun that you have equipped is going to have its effect active. If you're swapping weapons, you lose the effect of the previous gun. So do note that limitation as well. The next thing I wish I'd known had to do with vending machines. And there are two things to note. One to save time, and one is kind of cool but rare. So number one has to do with finding quest rewards on vending machines. So anytime you have a quest reward, it's going to be leveled to whatever level it was when you received the reward. However, moving forward, there is a small chance, albeit it be small, when you look through items on the vending machine, you may get one of them that was previously a quest reward, but now it will be at the character level that you are currently at. So if you had that really cool weapon, you wish you had gone a higher level and you got a quest reward at, let's say, level 17, and you don't wish re-rolling a new character to get it, you can potentially get lucky here. That's number one. And then the other thing that a lot of people don't realize is you can mark things to be sold in your inventory and then auto sell them later. So if you mouse over an item and then you hit the button for mark as junk/favorites, so on PC defaults to R, hit once for that. Then if you go over to this specific vending machine here with like the weapons, you can notice there is a secondary weapon. For me, it's one of my mouse buttons. It says sell all junk, and you can do that. So instead of going here, hitting sell and manually going through this, which can be a little risky as well, you can basically, when you're looking through a bunch of loot, go through it. In my case, hit R and mark it either as a star like this, and the star is marked as kind of a favorite. Now, it doesn't keep you from being able to sell it, be careful, but it doesn't automatically lock it to be auto-sold either. It can be neutral, or again, it can be marked to sell, and now it will be junked anytime you go to that vending machine. This should save you a ton of time when it comes to selling trash loot and so forth. So the next tip I want to point out that I wish I had known about is how critical hit chance worked. So when I first created a Stabomancer, I looked at the class feed and said, oh wow, baseline increases critical hit chance. Awesome. That means I just picked this up, and now when I shoot something or I hit it with my sword, I have a 30% chance of crit hitting. Unfortunately, this is not how it works. Similarly put, maybe you pick up another class that has, you can invest into, let's say, 5 points to increase your spell hit chance by 60%. Oh, that's great. That means my spells now have a 60% chance to crit every time I cast them. Nope, wrong again. It's a little bit more complicated. The good news is I have created a separate video explaining how crit hits work. So go ahead, check out that video. TLDR, basically different type of weapons and skills and abilities are going to have different variables. And in this video, I'll explain where to check that out and how to calculate when it is worth going for a crit hit build and when it is not. All right, this next one is an embarrassing one. I wish I had known truly how Ambihexterous worked when I started the game. So for those of you that don't know, every character normally has access to one spell slot, and that's impacted by spell cooldown reduction. And then every class has an action skill slot, and those action skills are going to be modified by action skill cooldown reduction. Well, there is a skill, there is basically one of these options for the spell shot that is Ambihexterous. And it says the Fate Weaver may equip a second spell in his inventory, meaning he has 2 spells instead of an action skill and a spell. I had just thought erroneously that that second spell slot really acted as a modified action skill slot, meaning I would still need to have a cooldown reduction for action skill or action abilities. And so that's what I did. I tried to stack spell cooldown as well as action skill cooldown. And boy, was I wrong. So on this character here, I had gotten attunement for skill cooldown, and it was a total waste. So when it comes to this character, if you go spell shot and you pick up Ambihexterous, you no longer have any need for anything to do with cooldown reduction for action skills. It's all about spell cooldowns. Your spell cooldown stat will impact both of your spells, and you can just forget about any skill cooldown periods. So hopefully this saves some of you headaches in the future and confusion if you're going to go for a multi-spell build spell shot. Now here's a simple but silly one that I wish I had known right off the bat, so I wouldn't overthink things as much. The reality is, while you pick your main class, and that cannot change in the game, and your secondary class can be respect, the reality is there is no real difference outside of that what your primary and secondary class is going to be. The look of your gear is going to be dependent on what kind of armor you're wearing in the armor slot. So you could, for example, be a primary Graveborn that selects spell shot, and you'll be the same type of combination, same potential effectiveness as if you were to start as a spell shot and respec Graveborn. The only difference again is going to be which skill tree you get access to first. As you level, which skills you're going to have access to. You're going to, for example, unlock your second class and the ability to pick both of the other ones by around level 17 or so, 17 or 18 in the storyline equivalent. And so that's the only difference. By the time you're level 40, you're going to be constantly be able to respect that second one. And the only thing, again, that's going to be different is what your primary is. So if you're not worried about the combination there and the order, and you're happy, you know for sure that you want your main character to have a certain class, confidently pick that, and just know that you can always respect the second one to any other option, and that's not going to be a weaker version of that multi-class in any way, shape, or form. Okay, the next tip has primarily to do with getting the max amount of highest quality loot in the loot chamber when it comes to the end of the Chaos dungeons. So you have this chest, and then you're going to be able to gamble on various items here. And so what I didn't know right off the bat is that you can equip shields and also necklaces that have luck, and it will impact the chances of getting better loot here. So what I always recommend is when you get to this point, make sure you get any epic or legendary and roll until you get a gain plus 25 luck loot on the shield. And then pick the very best possible necklace that you can have with the highest luck chance, loot luck chance. So here I have 34.9% plus 25%. Equip this. Now if you go and I go under skills, under overview stats and loot luck. Now this is actually bugged right now. It's saying 10,000. I don't know why it does this. This should be about 17,000. And sometimes I equip it and unequip it and it'll fix itself. But bottom line is all those factors will factor in. And then when you loot this here, you have a better chance of getting more legendaries. And then same thing, and I've had up to 6. Again, that was 1. RNG is still RNG. And then also it should work with looting all of these kind of random elements. So when you go here and you gamble with the points you have earned, the gems you have earned, you should be able to get more legendaries out of this of higher quality. So basically, remember to equip that. Just don't forget to unequip this and put your normal stuff for leveling. Now, if you're doing content that's super easy, maybe you can run around with loot that has this, but generally speaking, when clearing content, I prefer to run with loot that has actual killing potential. And then when it comes to a concentrated area like the loot chamber, then I like to equip this gear that has the increased chance to loot. So there's the tip for that. And then my very last tip of things I wish I had known in the game earlier was the fact that this game actually has 4 secret raid bosses that are already in the game and accessible. I spent the first couple of weeks not knowing. In the past, I was used to raid bosses coming out later on with DLC, but it's available. And here's the good news. I have created my own separate video that will tell you exactly how to unlock this. You can check out the video right now. It should be popping up on screen for you with a link, how to get to the bosses, the key things to know about each of the bosses, and how to beat them. So I hope you guys find it helpful. And with that, guys, that is the last of my 10 tips that I wish I had known about before starting Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Hope they helped you as much as they would have helped me. As always, if you like this content, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to be kept abreast about the various videos that I'm going to release. And also make sure to come and check me out on twitch.tv/LeeroyGamingStream. If you want to join me for some runs, get some free carries, or just chat it up with me. Also check out the Discord where I frequently visit. And all of that information is in the description below. All right, guys, thank you for your support as always, and I will see you guys in the next video.